NTA International News.
And once you have transparency in port operations, then you've seen that the leakages are disappearing.
System at ports is to check corruption. Gambian President Adama Barrow to form cabinet soon as Chief Justice of the Gambia resigns. Ahead of African Union Summit in Addis Ababa, horse trading on the continent's continued membership of International Court of Criminal Justice in top gear. Hello there and a warm welcome to NTA International News at this time. My name is Justin Bemunye. It's glad to have you join us. We begin from an update from the Gambia, where President Adama Barrow, who is now back in Banjul, the Gambian capital, is expected to name his cabinet soon. Report from Banjul says Nigeria's image is soaring higher as the Chief Justice of the country, Emmanuel Fagbili, has resigned. Makut Simon Macham captured the arrival Thursday.
During the 22-year rule of President Yahya Jammeh, many Gambians lived in fear and could not freely express themselves nor criticize the government. But the election of Adama Barrow seems to have put this dark picture behind them, as they can grant interviews and freely speak without watching their backs.
Everyone can speak about your right, how the disadvantages and advantages about our country. Because before, it's like, when you want to talk, I don't know you, I can't talk about the former president. When I talk something there, I will just look my back. When I don't know you, I can't discuss with you about his affairs.
Many of them acknowledge the sacrifices of Nigeria and other ECOWAS countries in ensuring that the political logjam ends peacefully and decisively.
I'm thanking the ECOWAS members and the presidents, especially Buhari, is a giant, because they did every possibility. They talk with Jammeh peacefully so that they can solve the situation.
Head of mission at the Nigerian embassy in Banjul, Mansour Abdulkarim Nwambila, and some Nigerians living in the Gambia say their image has been greatly boosted by Nigeria's leadership role in the resolution of the crisis.
I managed to meander among this crowd of thousands of Gambians jubilating because of the return of their cherished leader. And wherever they saw Nigerian flag, they were hailing, they were jumping, some were hugging me.
And we are very proud that Nigerians, at the end of the day, we have been exonerated of any blames like the way it was turning around initially, that the judiciary was being corrupted and being by Nigerians. Thank God, at the end of the day, it's the same Nigeria at last that saved the situation.
Analysts hope that Nigeria's business community will take advantage of such goodwill to make inroads into a business environment they have already made huge statement in. From Banjul in the Gambia, Makut Simon Macham, NTA News.
And away from the Gambia now, ahead of the 28th ordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union, the Executive Council has been meeting in Addis Ababa to set the roadmap that will consolidate Africa's oneness and development. Omni Oden in Addis Ababa has the details.
Harnessing the demographic dividend through investment in the African youth is the focus of the 28th ordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government. It aims to boost investment in the African youths through promoting transformative and inclusive development. The African Union has now reinforced its recognition of the efforts by youths in entrepreneurship and innovation. This, it says, can be achieved through revival and strengthening of the spirit of Pan-Africanism, unity and solidarity to successfully steer the way towards Agenda 2063.
One of the really important goals within that, of course, is what they call silencing the guns by 2020, and that's the ending of conflicts on the continent by 2020. And so when you look at our strategy to have a Commissioner for Peace and Security, and all the things we've been doing on the continent, including the Gambia, and the setting up of an African standby force, Nigeria really wants to be at the forefront of pushing the peace agenda on the African continent.
Most of the sessions for now are held behind closed doors. Ultimately, the African Union is pushing for a revolution in skills, job creation, and economic opportunities that will see the youth in Africa on the driving seat. In Addis Ababa, Ominiodan, NTA News.
Some African countries are sustaining their position for the continent to withdraw its membership of the International Court of Justice. Though a decision is not yet arrived at, horse trading is on for the issue to form part of the agenda for deliberation at 28th African Union Summit in Addis Ababa. Correspondent Ominio Den again in Addis Ababa reports.
Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyama, gives an insight to the development.
Each country acceded individually, exercising its sovereign rights. So each country, if they want to withdraw, they have the freedom to do so individually. So those who want to withdraw should withdraw. So that is, like one of the issues. But Nigeria is within it, and our position is that if we feel there are problems with the treaty, from within, you amend the treaty.
Senegal, Cape Verde, among other African countries, were strongly against it. Following this, a committee was set up by the Executive Council to elaborate on a strategy for a collective withdrawal from the International Court of Justice by the African Union. But the big question is, will this suffice? Besides Agenda 2063, which aligns with the Sustainable Development Goals, and youth entrepreneurship in Africa, which will give the youths a wider space in startups and job creation, other areas that will take center stage at the 28th ordinary session of heads of state and government of the African Union will be developments in the Gambia, Southern Sudan, global security issues, and ultimately an election from Addis Ababa. Ominiodan, NTA News.
And back here in Nigeria, the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Khadija Abba Ibrahim, says the Republic of Sudan is a strategic partner in Nigeria's ongoing efforts to diversify her economy. This was at the 61st National Day commemoration of the country, organized by the Embassy of Sudan in Abuja. Timothy Yusuf reports.
The relations between Nigeria and Sudan are deeply rooted in history. Hence, what is needed to be done on the part of experts is revival and assessing the implementation of previous agreements, especially consolidating on the Binational Commission and the Joint Committee established in 1998 to finalize some of the agreements by both countries. Nigeria's Minister of State for Foreign Affairs went down memory lane to when Sudan was a transit point for Nigerians undertaking pilgrimage before the advent of modern transportation. She says presently about 12 million Sudanese of Nigerian origin are contributing to Sudan's economy in various fields ranging from defense, intelligence sharing, agriculture, education, and trade.
Nigeria is a major exporter of gum arabic, ginger, and chili to Sudan and vice versa. Nigeria has contributed to security in the Sudan.
The Sudanese ambassador to Nigeria stated that plans are underway to revive bilateral agreements and trade between Nigeria and Sudan. He explained that the exchange of draft agreements and protocols in various fields, which include economic, cultural, scientific, and the exchange and training of professors and teachers, are being put in place. The ambassador said the prospects of cooperation between both countries were enormous, stressing that there are still many areas to be explored. He commended Nigeria for playing a pivotal role in returning peace to the Darfur region in Sudan.
Business community should activate their activities in order to have a very effective economic cooperation that will be, an example to this old and deep relationship between the two countries.
Guests at the event agree that Sudan holds potential for enhancing Nigeria's economic diversification moves. The event also provided an opportunity to showcase the rich culture and tradition of Sudan. In Abuja, Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
The federal government has raised concerns over fishing activities in the Gulf of Guinea and appealed for collaborating efforts among the economic community of West African states towards eradicating what the government described as an economic sabotage. This is coming as Nigeria is set to host the 10th Fishing Community of West African Ministers Conference in Abuja. Musa Babali reports.
Despite the fact that Nigeria has the potentials to meet the country's demand of over 2 million metric tons of fish per annum, The government, however, spends over 600 million naira on importation of fish annually. Official figure from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture puts the local fish production at less than 900,000 metric tons. The Minister of State for Agriculture, Heneki Lokobiri, attributed the deficiency to illegal fishing, smuggling, among other challenges.
We spend in excess of $600 million every year to import fish. We have not even invested 1% of the tuna that we have in this country. And the case of illegal and unregistered fishing is, is a recurring decimal. It's a recurring issue, in Nigeria. And based on that, we're already meeting with Nigerian Navy. Our federal government is already planning to equip them so that we'll be able to check these incidences.
The government therefore says it will take advantage of the forthcoming Agriculture Ministers' Conference on the need to develop a system that will boost fish production in West Africa.
We realize that the fishery stock cannot be managed only at one country level because we have some shared resources and we have also shared common interests. So the FAO Code of Conduct widely advise coastal countries to come together to manage their resources.
Nigeria, Ghana, Benin, Republic, Ivory Coast are members of the Fisheries Committee for the West African Gulf of Guinea. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Procurement in the budgetary process remains a nagging source of concern to government, especially as it seeks to curb wastages, block loopholes and reduce leakages in the wake of reduced resources. Leah Katung Babatunde in this report examines the role of the Bureau of Public Reforms in tasking government chief executive on accountability in relation to the reforms they drive.
The contraction of the Nigerian economy has brought with it concerns over inequality, with huge gaps between the haves and have-nots extending to rising unemployment and inflationary headwinds. Part of the efforts by government to address the problems resulting from over-bloated expenditure is driven through budgeting reforms. In pursuit of these, a January lunchtime reform seminar with the Budget Office, which brought together key players across ministries, departments and agencies, provided an opportunity for the Director Budget, Ben Akabweze, to defend decisions taken by his office in the budgetary process.
We have tried to do more stringent work of making the budget realistic, both in terms of the revenue projections and even in terms of the projects and programs that are being included.
And we've saved in excess of 680 billion over the last 7 years through better procurement. We still have corruption. And it's a bit difficult to perpetrate corruption without procurement. So it is still very necessary for us to improve our procurement system.
The series seeks to avail heads of critical parastatals with opportunity to express their views, justify decisions, and receive suggestions. It ensures governance reforms are brought to the attention of key players and avail the public of needed information through active participation. In Abuja, Lekating Babatunde, NTA News.
Federal government says the deployment of automation system at the ports is a move to check corruption with a view to significantly reduce costs for parks users. Minister of Transportation Chibuike Amechi said this at a meeting with stakeholders in Abuja. Oyinaya Kalu Oka reports.
Representing the Minister of Transportation, Chibuike Amechi, Executive Secretary, Shippers Council Hassan Bello said the automation system will make the ports efficient and comparable to international standard.
This will make the ports modern, efficient, and once you have transparency in port operations, then you've seen that the leakages are disappearing.
At a meeting with members of the National Freight Haulers Association, the need for both parties to synergize on the way forward was stressed.
There is little regulation, in inland transportation of our cargo. So it's important you apply these regulations, international regulations, ECOWAS protocol, and I think the effort has just started now.
We are in a recession. This is the rightful time to come together, form a synergy, and pull us out.
The association called for the introduction of accident control units to assist relevant agencies to enforce discipline and security at the transport sector. Oyinaya Kalu Oka, NTA News.
And if you're just joining us, this is NTA International News from Nigeria's capital city of Abuja. The news will continue in just a moment. After the break, please stay tuned.
Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. So let the change begin from within. Look at you, yeah, okay, change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me.
NTA International News. Africa as it is.
Thank you very much for staying tuned. Now, from the National Assembly comes a report that the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee on Development Finance Institutions has demanded that the Nigerian Export-Import Bank, NEXIM, should submit the list of all beneficiaries of its 113 billion naira export grant to facilitate its investigations. This request came after the acting managing director of NEXIM Bank, Bashir Wali, presented a scorecard of the bank to the ad hoc committee at a public hearing. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo reports.
The public hearing is in continuation of the House of Representatives' investigation on the activities of federal government-owned development finance institutions. The committee's interest in NEXIM Bank underscores the strategic role the financial institution plays in the development of external sector of the Nigerian economy. Acting Managing Director of the bank gave the ad hoc committee details of major activities of his organization.
Disbursement, the bank has disbursed about 113 billion in support of the oil export sector, thereby facilitating the creation and sustenance of over 65,772 direct jobs.
Chairman Ad hoc Committee on Development Finance Institutions, Representative Emeka Anoho, explained why the institution must ensure transparency in its operations.
Primarily set up to bridge the financing gap around economic development with a view to increasing the availability of funds for micro, small, and medium enterprises.
The bank is to appear again before the ad hoc committee at a later date when the documents requested must have been made available. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
To address the issue of gas flaring and other environmental challenges, especially the exploitation of indigenous Nigerians by international companies, the issues of human rights violations and freedom must be addressed. These form part of speeches of the validation meeting on Nigerian National Action Plan on Business and Human Rights of the National Human Rights Commission. Mujanatu Adam Said reports.
Rights violations. This meeting is to assess the activities of multinational corporations and other businesses that adversely affect the livelihood and human rights in various ways.
Businesses, including formal and informal businesses, that is whether multinational corporations or those who do street trading, whether hawkers, and all those who are in business, do business in a way and manner that doesn't violate the rights of Nigerians.
Look at that document and see how can these three pillars to protect human rights, respect human rights by businesses, and also for there to be remedies and accountability for violations of human rights.
The protection and promotion of international human rights standards have traditionally been the responsibility of governments. Other speakers at the meeting commended the Nigerian government for commitment to the United Nations environmental program report on Ogoni land in Rivers State, for which the federal government of Nigeria has commenced to clean up. In Abuja, Murijana to Adam Said, NTA News.
Chiaz Alameki is standing by with stories from the financial sector.
Many thanks for joining us on business segments. We begin with developments from the banking industry. The Nigerian interbank settlement system, in its latest electronic payments report for 2016, says the value of cash withdrawals through automatic teller machines rose sharply to 4.7 trillion naira in the year under review. The NIBSS disclosed that the banking industry has about 61 million active bank customers and 65 million active bank accounts. It also revealed that there are 25 million current accounts, 69 million savings accounts, and 6 million corporate accounts, with about 84 million individual accounts. The report indicates that about 26 million bank customers have been enrolled for the bank verification number. And Victor Oshaderi, a development economist in Nigeria, says given the rising growth and incomes in other parts of the world presents an opportunity for Nigerian regulators to ensure they carry out their duties professionally to meet international best practices. He spoke with NTA Business News on the need for Nigeria to be competitive in the global economy.
You're a regulator, go and find out what is best practice, what's world-class standard. That's the only way you can measure up. That's the only way we can compete as a nation anywhere in the world. So if beyond looking at the locals, if we are able, yes, we are talking about local content, but you may not be able to drive your local content to meet best practices except you know what's happening elsewhere.
And just before we go, let's take a look at trading figures on the Nigerian stock markets. And that's the package at this time. I am Chiaz Alameki. The news continues. Don't go away.
And to sports now, 2017 African Cup of Nations enters quarterfinals Saturday in Gabon, as Rafael Nadal sets up epic Australian Open final with Roger Federer. Details with Sports Update with Ayodeji Makinde.
Executive Secretary of the National Lottery Trust Fund